Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Real Talk Weekly. Me and Rasco are back in a much more timely fashion than last week because, we don't have 30 calls to stitch together. And we also have maybe a little bit less on our docket. So, just to let you guys know, if you don't want to watch all this all in one sitting, it's understandable. It's probably like a little over an hour. I don't know how long this is going to be. But we do have in the description timestamps where you can jump around from our our weekend box office breakdown, our movie reviews / discussions, and the trailers we're going to be talking about. We have a pretty full show today. We're going to be talking about the new movies Incarnate, Man Down, and I'm going to be talking about Loving because it's not coming to Rasco's Theater next week, and it was in one theater in my location this week, so I'm going to talk about that for a little bit. On the trailer side of things, we have the new Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 trailer. We have The Mummy, the full trailer. We talked about the trailer tease last week, but today we're going to be talking about the full new Mummy trailer, as well as, what's the last one, Rasco?
Oh, I forgot what the last trailer was.
Oh, okay, because I forgot it too, that's why I asked you. I'm sure we'll remember it as we go along. But we have a mystery trailer, or we can just look down the description because we'll remember it by then.
Yeah, we'll remember it by the end.
Yes. As well as movie recommendations based on movies that we saw this week. Great show. We're in the thick of Oscar season, so why don't we just get started and talk about the weekend box office. But before we do, Rasco, is there anything you wanted to talk about? What have you been up to this week, movie-wise?
Nothing much. I wasn't able to see Manchester by the Sea this week. We're doing that next week. You already mentioned it. But I did see Incarnate, and I did see... What was the other movie I saw? Oh, Man Down. Man Down. Yeah, but I saw that
All right.
quite a bit ago.
So, getting into the weekend box office, coming in first place is Moana with $28.2 million. In second place, we have Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, remaining in second place with $18.1 million. In third place is Arrival with $7.2 million. Dude, it went from fifth place to third place. Isn't that insane? Fourth place, we have Allied, going back up, holding a pretty consistent box office share. In fifth place, dropping down to fifth place, is Doctor Strange. Oh my god, can you believe this? Doctor Strange with $6.6 million. Sorry, yeah, that's fifth place. In sixth place, we have Trolls, staying in sixth place with 4. Hacksaw Ridge. It was in ninth place last week. It went up to seventh place this week. Hacksaw Ridge gaining another $3.3 million. That thing just keeps on bringing in the dough. It has legs. We have in eighth place Bad Santa 2 with $3.2 million. And then in ninth place, making waves in its debut, in ninth place is Incarnate with $2.5 million.
Yeah!
And then in 10th place, we have Almost Christmas with an additional $2.5 million. Not quite making the cut, but still staying in 11th place, we have Manchester by the Sea with $2.2 million. And then 12th place, Edge of 17 continues to bring in a little over $1.5 million. And then 13th place is Loving. Last week it was in 11th place, and it only dropped down to 13th. So that's cool. As well as Moonlight and all of them still kind of sticking around just under the top 10. Not bringing in a lot of money because this weekend did not bring as many people as last weekend. Understandable. Last weekend there was Black Friday madness. People were in malls. They're probably going to movies too, dropping kids off at the movies so moms can get their shopping done and dads can get their shopping done. And so it's all it was Thanksgiving last weekend, so there was more families going to the movies. So Moana dropped 50%. That was first place. It dropped like almost exactly 50%, 50.1%. Second place is Fantastic Beasts. Remember how we talked about how it dropped, a pretty small drop off from week 1 to week 2? Well, at second, from week 2 to week 3, it dropped 59.8. So, and then but still, the big success story here is Arrival. It dropped only 36.6% from, I think, what was last week? It's from week 3 to week 4. Still staying in the top 3. Doctor Strange did drop 51.3, and there's pretty much consistently 50% drop-offs across the board and more. So it's very interesting. It's a pretty lackluster week as terms of financing goes, but as far as the placement of everything goes, it definitely shows that award contenders are gathering customers' attention. So, Rascal, what do you think about this information?
That's crazy that Arrival made it to third.
I know.
That's ridiculous. That's awesome.
Yeah. I remember the third trailer we're talking about.
Well, what is it? What is it?
Transformers 5!
Oh, yes! Oh, yes!
Right. Continue, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, but that's crazy. That's so good for Arrival. And we were talking about how Arrival is the kind of movie that will have legs because it's the kind of movie you go and see and then you tell everyone they have to see it so that you can talk about the big twist. And that's obviously what has happened, and that's played out now, I guess.
It's really cool. Hacksaw Ridge continues to have legs. I'm so shocked by that. It's a very violent movie, and it has more of a faith angle to it, but it's still a good movie that tells the story very well, and it's really neat that, at least in this case, good storytelling is bringing people into the movie seats. It has racked up a total of $57.2 million in its run so far domestically, and they have not announced what the budget was, but I can imagine 57 for that movie, that must be a great return.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about the weekend box office?
I will say that I'm glad Edge of 17 is chugging along at least still.
Yeah, it's stayed up in the it's managed to stay more relevant than something like Bleed for This. Unfortunately, Bleed for This did not. It's gone. Like, it's leaving screens now. But Edge of 17 is still sticking around. That's good. I didn't review Edge of 17. I have seen it. I really liked it. I think I liked it even more than Rasco did. Me and my brother watched it, and we had a blast. I really like it. I officially have a man crush on Blake Jenner. When you're in Edge of 17 and you're in Everybody Wants Some, and you're married to Melissa Benoist, you're awesome. I want to be you, man. It's so great.
Speaking of Everybody Wants Some, right behind your head, Connor. Actually, I don't think the people watching this will be able to see because it will be, the framing will be too narrow. So, yes, that is what we needed. Everybody wants some.
Everybody wants some!
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, alrighty then. If you have nothing more to add, do you have anything more to say?
No, not really.
Oh, okay. We're going to get into our first movie review of the day. It's day where I am, so I'll just say day. We are going to be talking about Incarnate, probably the widest release movie we're talking about this week. So, Rasco, do you want to fill us in on what Incarnate is?
Okay, so Incarnate is a exorcism movie without the faith element, kind of, I guess is what you would call it. It's Aaron Eckhart's character. I think his name's Dr. Ember, something like that.
Seth Ember.
Yeah. He is essentially an exorcist, but he doesn't use religious methods. It's very sciencey. So it's pretty much Inception. You go into someone's dream because apparently when you are possessed by a demon, you're actually in a dream state, and your body is just kind of being used by the demon while your I guess your actual mind is in a dream. And so he goes into the dream, grabs the person, helps them escape their dream, and that somehow gets rid of the demon. That's it.
It's weird. It's like, you're right. So it's The Exorcist meets Inception. So it's like it's a science exorcism, but he's wheelchair bound. But he's also like a hard drinking, tragic past, almost like noir detective archetype. It's a weird blending of genres. What did you think of Incarnate?
I think I had a lot of fun watching this movie, and that has nothing to do with with its quality, right? It has everything to do with the quality, actually. It has everything to do with the fact that the quality is very low. So I had a great time watching this movie because it was very fun to just laugh at and just
So Aaron Eckhart plays Dr. Seth Ember. You have to say his name like that because 98% of his lines he says like this. It also has David Mazouz, who plays Bruce Wayne on the TV show Gotham. It's got Carice Van Houten, your favorite from Game of Thrones. It's also got some other people that have not really been in any movies. And this is coming to us from Blumhouse Tilt, which is, I guess, like I guess the subdivision of Blumhouse that doesn't really do the movies. They put out the Green Inferno, so I think this is like a distribution chain from Blumhouse. So it's like Fox Searchlight.
Funny you should mention Green Inferno. That movie was filmed like 3 to 5 years before it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that you thought that this movie was probably in the same boat.
Yeah,
we can check this, but we have not. I'm sure we could check this.
It's more funny to theorize about.
Yeah, we're not going to, because if we do, we don't want to, codify it. We just want to sit back and assume.
Yeah, and this is also like more of a conversational thing, more reactionary to the movies that we watched. And my reaction was, I think this movie came out was made 5 years ago. But it's coming out of WWE Studios. And while you might go, World Wrestling Entertainment, how hilarious. They're also the company that put out Oculus 2 years ago. And Oculus was really, really good. So I was thinking, Blumhouse is, they put out the Gift. Blumhouse was actually the studio that put out Whiplash, if you can believe it. And as well as a bunch of really crappy horror movies. But I was thinking, okay, Blumhouse, they've been really catching my eye recently, as well as WWE Studios with Oculus. I was actually thinking this might be a surprise. I was thinking, this will probably get like a 60-something on Rotten Tomatoes. No, it's not that. This is a really bad movie. It's really, really bad. But the reason I say I think this movie came out 5 years ago is because it's so derivative of Inception. Everything down to a woman haunting our main character, to dream machines, to a lot of expository dialogue.
The way the movie starts, right?
Yeah, the way the movie starts, everything is like Inception. It's a horror version of Inception. But also, the song by AWOL Nation, S.H.I.E.L.D! It's played twice throughout this movie. It's like the only song they could get the rights for. It's almost like when they made this, that was a very popular song. And that was about 5 years ago when AWOL Nation's Sail was a very popular song. Sail! All right, Rasco, why don't you just take the torch on this one? I really want to hear you talk about it.
Okay, I think we have to pull a shut-in, and I don't think we should talk about this movie spoiler-free for too long. I think this is a movie we need to just get in and make fun of it, and that would make a more entertaining video. I guess... okay, I'm going to give my non-spoiler piece, then you can give yours, and then I think we'll just cut it off and we'll go into spoilers, right? This movie is one of those films that you go to when you need an example of what bad writing is and what very mediocre directing is, right? It's not I've seen really bad directing. This is not really bad, but it's not good. Like, it's not close to being good either. It's like firmly mediocre. And
mediocre, that's good.
What was I saying before I got on the rant about...
You said this is an example that you use for...
Oh, yeah, this is one of those examples, like, if you're ever sitting back and you're watching, if you're ever, watching a marathon of great films, and you're just like, forgot, what is it like to watch a bad movie, right? Like, sometimes you get in that space where you start seeing kind of, middle-of-the-road movies, and you have a hard time really getting critical and trying to find... or you have a hard time trying to, rank it in your head. Like, where am I going to score this movie, right? But this is one of those movies that you watch, and then it's so apparent what this movie's level of quality is that you can then look at movies that you maybe were kind of iffy on or didn't really know how you felt about, and because you now have this frame of reference, it puts everything else into perspective for you. And that's what this movie was. Like, it is so obviously flawed from like scene one, and not like in nothing makes sense, which that you could argue nothing makes sense, but just like from like lines of dialogue that are meant to like get you to see these characters as people literally do the exact same thing, like so, or do the exact opposite. Lines of dialogue designed to make these people seem real literally make them seem so not real. It's great, and everything does the exact opposite of what it wants, almost. Yes. I'll wait. Before, actually, I will say this. This movie's more fun to watch than S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
For sure. It's a different kind of bad. S.H.I.E.L.D. is bad, and you're like, ugh. This movie's bad, and you're like, oh my god, this is so much fun to watch, because it's so bad.
I don't think I had as much fun with this movie as you did. To me, this isn't like Legends of Hercules level of I'm having an incredible time watching this horrible movie. But there were moments where I cackled and was like beaming, was like, I can't believe I'm watching this in a movie theater. The way I would describe this movie is, I don't know how long it is. It's barely 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's not very long.
And it feels too long. And you can tell they were padding out.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
There are so many scenes where somebody like, come on, I need to talk to you about something. Yes, I think I need to get my people in on this. No, I'm going to do it. Okay. So what was the point of the scene we just watched? Nothing. It changed. But it's just there to pad it out.
It's there to add some stakes, bruh. It might not work out. They might have to bring in other people. I mean, the stakes.
Yeah, but then when there's like a whole detour, there's some hacky writing. Like one point, someone's like, "I have developed this thing," and then Aaron Eckhart's like, "I don't need that." Gee, I wonder what he's going to need in the third act. So there's stuff like that, but it's so padded out. There's like detours that don't add to the movie. There are characters that have a lot of like long scenes in the movie that they get killed, and then they're just not brought up. They don't affect character at all or the plot. So they're just there to pad it out. It feels like a pilot for a TV show gone wrong and gone on too long. That's the way I would describe it. It feels like to me. This feels like a pilot for a TV show, and not a good one, because every single scene is trying to explain the concept of this movie. It's trying to explain the premise, and it's trying to inform you on characters, and it leaves you no room to think for yourself or feel for yourself. And that's a big problem, especially in something like this where the characters are allegedly supposed to be feeling a lot of things about the situations they're in. So in that way, it completely failed. As a horror movie, when I walked into this movie, 15 minutes of trailers, right? That's usually how many minutes of trailers, 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah. I walked in 10 minutes after the trailers had ended, and the movie was on. Like, it was on. It was in the first scene, but the movie was on. I walk in, and there's a girl on her cell phone that says, "Okay, I'll call you back after the movie." Click. And then I sit down, and a bunch of stupid teenagers sit all behind me, and it's the scene where he's got the lighter, and he says, "Tell me what this is." And the girl goes, "That's the lighter!" I'm like, oh no, it's going to be one of these movie-going experiences. They shut up. And they didn't say another word for the rest of the movie. And then the people in front of me, they got up and left. And these are stupid teenagers watching a PG-13 horror movie.
Wait, at what point did they get up and leave?
Like 40 minutes into the movie. Like, they just like got up and they waved goodbye to their friends who were the teenagers talking behind me. Like, people did, like, and then when I got done with the movie, the kids behind us were like, "That movie sucks! It was boring!" Like, this is how, like, it's not a good movie. Like, if you like maybe a bad horror movie, like, it's not a good movie, but it's like something that like a junior higher will watch at a sleepover or something. Yeah, it's not even that good. Like, people, you will not like this movie. I guarantee you will not like this movie. So that was my movie-going experience, and I would say don't watch this movie unless you have a lot of friends over and you enjoy making fun of bad writing and really inconsistent performances. David Masoos, who plays the possessed child in this movie, he's possessed, and he can only speak in bad guy lines that are from bad guys from better movies. At one point, like Aaron Eckhart's like, "All right, demon, I'm here," and then David Masoos goes, "I am honored that you have joined us." And like that's Darth Vader from Empire Strikes Back. That is a line from Darth Vader from Empire Strikes Back. And then at one point, right before they get going into like the mental like Inception dream, David Masoos goes, "Let the games begin." I'm like, that's Bane from Dark Knight Rises. This guy can only talk in bad guy lines from better movies.
Absolutely true.
All right, so that's like before we get into spoilers. I would say I'd give this like a 2.5 out of 10. It's better than Shut-In, but it's not good.
Yeah. Are we doing ratings right now? I'll go ahead and I will say this movie for me, it's a 3 out of 10. And that's all I'll say.
That's all you'll say? All right. I just want to give my like rating. Like scores are arbitrary, right? They don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. So we'll just throw it in before the spoilers. Let's get into spoilers, Rasco. What are you going to talk about?
I want to talk about everything in this movie because it's all hilarious. Now, let's start with... What's the first thing we can make fun of? Okay, let's start with the performances because Carice Van Houten is in this film. I love Carice Van Houten. I'm obsessed with her. She's on Game of Thrones. She's my favorite character on Game of Thrones. She's awesome. And in this... It is hilarious because I think, and we'll get into this, I think the director is probably horrible at working with actors because she plays 3 characters in one in this film. She only plays one character, but every time it cuts to her, it's a gamble. You're going to get one of 3 performances. The first one is Zooey Deschanel from The Happening, right? She will do, if you haven't seen The Happening, watch it. Zooey Deschanel's performance in that is the first personality of her character. The second one is just Melisandre from Game of Thrones. She even slips into her accent when she is this character. And then the third is like, I guess what her character is supposed to be, which is just a normal, concerned mother. And like I said, she doesn't have like split personality disorder in the movie. I'm saying that it literally comes across as if she is giving 3 different performances.
Yeah.
And I think it's all because of the director. I don't think that he adequately gave her a specific avenue to kind of go down what exactly he wanted. And I think that he did the exact opposite with Aaron Eckhart, where Aaron Eckhart, I think if he had given him more because I think Aaron Eckhart is probably one of the more ranged actors working. Because if you think about it, you have Sully and Bleed for this in the same year. He plays an awesome, totally charming guy that you would want as your best friend in Sully, and then he plays a kind of loser, meek, kind of like looks at it like just he's a loser. That's like how I describe his character in Bleed for this, and that's what I really like about it. There's like, and what I mean by that is he just is a guy that doesn't really have much investment in himself in that movie, and you can totally see that in the performance, right? He's kind of washed up, and it's all right there. He doesn't think very highly of himself, right? And that's a polar opposite performance from his performance in Sully. And in this, it's not either of those. It is, gritty, gravelly, alcoholic guy, and I think that if he had been able to I guess, take that performance and go both more emotional and maybe more intense and just given a little bit more diversity to his character in this, because he is literally in this entire movie just kind of, I'm really angry right now. Okay, I don't use religious methods to get these demons out of people, right? Okay.
and I want to say, the way Rasco sounds, that is the performance Aaron Eckhart gives. Every line of dialogue is delivered exactly the same, just like that, except for maybe 1, maybe 2 lines where he raises his voice and he's like, "Hey, get back here!" And he sounds like Aaron Eckhart. Everything else He sounds like he's auditioning for Sin City 3. It's like he seems like a character almost out of Sin City 3. I'm an exorcist in the wheelchair, and I don't like the religious elements.
Yeah, and but like I said, like I don't think that he's doing a bad job at all. I really think that he was directed to act that way, and that he really didn't have much room.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Because even in a movie like The Dark Knight, you have Aaron Eckhart as really great, nice guy, haha, politician. Then you have normal, just kind of, oh, that Wayne guy's a freak. You have that Aaron Eckhart, and then you have puts the gun up to people's heads and flips the coin Aaron Eckhart, right? And then you get crazy Two-Face, right? So you get like 4 different kinds of Aaron Eckhart in The Dark Knight. He's one of my favorite actors, actually. I really like Aaron Eckhart. And I think that he's a really, really talented actor who can disappear into any role and really bring out whatever he needs to bring out. If he needs to be likable, he can do that. If he needs to be very standoffish, he can do that. And in this, I think that he was literally just given such a specific, narrow box. Like, this is your character. You're mad. You're an alcoholic. Okay? And you're in a wheelchair. Make it work. And it could have been much worse. Like, I think that he makes this movie tolerable. Because at least when I'm watching him deliver lines, I'm like, I like him. He's a great actor. This movie's not good enough for him. And it's really sad, too, because this was the year of Aaron Eckhart, like, kind of, not, I don't want to say, like, making a comeback like he was gone, but I don't think he had been in many movies that had really been, I guess, in the public eye. And he was in Sully, and I'm sure not a whole lot of people saw that movie, but people saw that, and everyone who saw that movie said that he was great in it. And then, also, he was amazing in Bleed for this. Absolutely fantastic. And then we get this movie. So, you know, he's already made up for it, right? We can get over this movie.
And more to the theory of it was made 5 years ago, they're like, oh my god, Aaron Eckhart, he's getting a lot of good reviews. Put it out quick.
Yeah. Oh, he was I Frankenstein. He's
Oh man. Oh, I hate I Frankenstein. But the thing is, do you think? And then what I thought was funny was he has like really long. He has longer hair to show how disheveled he is. Like he's trying to make up for his lack of hair and Bleed for this.
he goes from balding Aaron Eckhart to emo Aaron Eckhart.
So whether it was acting or it was performance, I don't think it's on Aaron Eckhart's hands. I think it's more on a director's hands. I did not like his performance. I got really annoyed by it, and his constant gravelly voice was one note. It was irritating. His character, he's just an archetype. He had nothing about his character that was inherently interesting. And maybe it is direction, but I don't think Aaron Eckhart was bringing more to it. You know how when you walk into a theater and they have the TVs that are playing commercials, and they'll sometimes have like a word scramble for an upcoming movie, or they'll have fun facts that play. I saw a fun fact on one of those TVs that said that Aaron Eckhart was for a couple of months would just leave his house in a wheelchair and stuff and just go around in his costume to see what it was like to be a disabled person who's wheelchair bound. And good on you, Aaron Eckhart, if you did that. Like that's putting so much effort, and you're a true professional. But it doesn't come across like he put anything into it in this movie. And maybe you're all right. Maybe it is all direction. But also, Carice Van Houten, there were lines of dialogue she had that were like a professional actress gave those lines, and then we haven't even talked about like the 2 sidekicks that work for Aaron Eckhart.
Wait, we also can we make fun of specifically the one Carice Van Houten line that opens the film? Well, I don't know if it might be the first line of dialogue, or I think it's the third line. It's the third line of dialogue. I think she picks up a box of spaghetti. Goes, "What are we having for dinner?" To her son, spaghetti. Or spaghetti, and it's not funny at all, and it's not like endearing, or it doesn't like make them seem like real people. It's horrible writing. No one could have delivered that line. No one could. Like, maybe Tom Hanks. Spaghetti? or spaghetti. I think Tom Hanks could have maybe done it, but not. But everyone else, nah, it's off the table.
I'm just saying Tom Hanks as the mom in this movie, like with the wig and the dress on. My son is special to me, all right? I'm not going to let his father see him. Can I talk about the dad in this movie? We're gonna get to those sidekicks sooner or later because how can we not? But the dad in this movie is the character I was talking about, where he's entirely pointless to the movie. Honestly, the best scene in the movie is the scene where he's talking to his son and atoning for his absence and like accidentally hurting his arm and stuff. Like that's the best scene in the movie. And I was like, wow, this is actually somewhat emotionally stirring because the guy who's playing the dad is giving it his all. I think honestly, he's the best performance in the movie. But then his character just gets offed and is never brought up ever again. So he was just there to pad out the running time.
And his death is one of the funniest things. I'm going to go on a rant and make fun of this death. So, in the scene, he's told, okay, you can talk to your son, but don't touch him because he's possessed. You might get killed, right? He tries to touch his son. Son grabs the arm, breaks it, then throws him to the ceiling and, like, levitates him and then slams him down and he's dead. Cut to the paramedics like wheeling his body on a stretcher out and he's dead. He's in like a body bag. Okay, so let's work through the steps here. Okay, so they're in an apartment performing a non-religious exorcism. They have tons of weird computers everywhere. They have a boy with like glowing red eyes. His skin is all pale. He's sitting like cross-legged in the middle of a dark room, and there's a dead body in this room with him now because he's just killed his father. So what had to happen here was they called the police or the paramedics or whoever they called. They showed up. Now here's the problem. You just see them wheel out this dead body, no questions asked. If you show up to this apartment, here is what you've now walked into. If you're a paramedic or if you're a police officer, you walk into this apartment. Okay, you have these people here. You have a dead body. Why is that guy dead? What killed him? That boy is possessed, and he did magic and killed him. What? Like, how would a cop react to that? And the fact that you see the paramedics wheel his dead body out of the room where the possessed child is sitting. Did they like see that little kid and not say anything to him and just go, like, oh, let's get this body out of here, bye? Like, in reality, what would happen is, okay, one of you guys, because I doubt that this is a world where everyone just accepts that, people get possessed. Sometimes it happens. I doubt.
No, they clearly acknowledge it because at the beginning he's like, some call it a demon, some call it a chi, some don't even believe in it. But it's like, so they're clearly trying to acknowledge this is somewhat the real world.
Yeah. And it's like, in the real world, what happens is the cops show up. Who killed that guy? The demon did. Okay. You're under arrest. And then he would take them into jail. Like, how does that, like, situation just, like, did no one ask any questions? Were there no police or paramedics that asked questions about what's going on here? Why is this guy dead?
Yeah.
It's hilarious. And it just glosses over it. It just goes. And it's like, you don't even think about it. But if you stop for 1 second and go, wait a minute. Like, whenever have people just been like, oh, a demon did it. That's a good enough excuse. No more questions. When has that ever happened in the real world?
It hasn't. And then, do you remember, like, the part that made me laugh the hardest was at the beginning where the businessman is getting exercised and he's like, and then, like, they must have thought that was really funny because then later in the movie he's looking at the footage and you get to see it all over again. It's really, really funny. But the other stuff that just made me cackle was Aaron Eckhart, completely straight-faced, and he's talking like this. He's talking about the most ridiculous things. See what I do is I go into the mind. It's not religious. I prefer to call it an eviction. I go into the mind. I find the demon, and then I kick him out from the inside. And he's just talking like this, and it's like diarrhea of the mouth exposition, just telling you every detail, every nook and cranny of the rules of this world. And then by the time you get to the climax, they throw all the rules out the window. And, oh, it's just an exorcism movie. Why? And then I'm questioning this because you established rules and then completely turned your back on these rules. We're given towards the end like a comedically ridiculous ticking clock, and then it fakes you out, and then you get another thing. But you're going to say something?
Oh, I just realized this movie so utterly fails at adequately exploring Aaron Eckhart's character's arc, because they try to do the whole signs thing where it's a guy who's lost his faith, and I'm saying this now, and I just realized that was kind of what was supposed to be going on, because it's right there actually, because it's right there, but it's so poorly done you don't even notice it. Literally, there's a scene where he like puts back on the cross, and then they don't really keep up with that continuity, I guess, because later on I don't think he has the cross when he goes into the dream world, but then he takes the cross and he uses the cross to kill the demon by putting it in the demon's mouth. And I think that's supposed to be like, his faith came back and it came in handy and he used it to kill the demon. I just realized that was supposed to be his arc. That's poorly done.
and furthermore, going into the rules of the movie, they're like, okay, I need to have a personal possession of the person on me, so when I go into their mind, I can say, look, here's a personal possession. You're being taken over by a demon. Look around you. This is not real. So he doesn't have his crucifix on, and then when he goes into the dream world, he's like, take this crucifix, demon, and he shoves it in the mouth. Wait, hold on, you weren't wearing a crucifix. And then later in the movie when he wakes up, he doesn't have a crucifix. So according to the rules of this movie, that doesn't make sense, and it doesn't work as a character arc or on an emotional level. It fails all around.
Also, here's the thing. If putting the cross in the mouth of the demon like makes it blow up and crap, doesn't that mean that like he is wrong and that like the demons and all this, it is inherently related to like Judeo-Christian mythology and stuff? Like it would have to be if a cross is effective against the demon. But here's the problem. This is a dream, and then that dream ends, and then we think we're in the real world, but then that's a dream, and then we really are in the real world. So did the cross not work? And oh god, this movie just gets worse the more you start to analyze it.
Well, hold on. It's a super demon, so rules don't apply.
Oh god. Thinking about think about this, all right? So his character arc is guy loses family and faith and then maybe kind of gets it back and then maybe uses it to beat the demon in the end. But the scene where he uses the cross to beat the demon isn't actually him beating it, because it's a fake out. And then later on, it's like, oh my god, he's still in the dream and there's the demon's still there and now he's possessed. And I'm thinking, like, are they aware that like that arc cannot work? If that arc can't work if him completing it didn't actually solve the problem.
I figured it out. It's bad screenwriting.
Oh yeah, that's what it is, right? Yeah.
More funny things though. I talk about that. Okay, so they're in the first dream where it's carnival, and then he's trying to get that's where he puts the crucifix in the demon's mouth, and like he's blowing up and comedically over the top of his
It's terrible.
So there's that, and so he's like, I need to get David Mazouz and throw him out a window so we can wake up. But what happens is they're like they need to get out of there quickly. So the sidekicks that are not in the dream world, they're looking. They have a computer monitor that has a ticking clock, like 5 seconds, 4 seconds. 3 seconds, 2, they get down to the last second, they jump out the window, and then he wakes up and they fake you out to make you think, oh, you woke up from your coma from that car crash, your family's all alive, you've just been in a coma for 3 days. He's like, wait, me as a wheelchair-bound science exorcist that uses the dream machine from Inception, I just hallucinated it all. And then he gets up and leaves with his family, but then no, this is actually not real, this is just the demon trying to fake him out. And then he gets out and then everyone's okay. So wait, hold on. What happened to the ticking clock like from 5 minutes ago? They act like it wasn't there.
It
It's like,
wasn't.
oh, you made it, yay!
Oh.
What? And then okay, another thing that does not make sense in this world. So what happens is in the opening scene, they're like, "What does the time say on your watch?" He's like, "I don't know, like 20 minutes after 7 or something." I'm pretty sure everyone else has the same time on their watch. Well, yeah, that's the point of time. Like right now, it's 4 o'clock on my phone. Right here on my computer monitor, it says 4 o'clock, and I'm sure downstairs on my microwave it says 4 o'clock.
It's 7 o'clock where I live. Ha! Your theory's been proven wrong.
Yeah. So the thing is, so he wakes up and he looks at his watch and it says a time. Then he looks up at a clock and it's the same time as his watch. He's like, "What?" Like, I don't get that. Like, everyone in my time zone, it's 4 o'clock right now. So I don't get it. But what they're trying to get at is, okay, when I went into this dreamland, on my watch it said like 1:15. Now that I'm awake, it says 1:15 on my watch. Oh crap, this isn't real. I get that, but I don't get why he's like looking at other clocks and see if they all say the same thing. Every clock should read the same in a city because it's all in the same time zone. I don't get that. That doesn't make any sense.
It's funny because the way they reveal it, like the shot itself, it's like, have you checked the other clocks in here? And there's like a clock right there behind it. It's like it's almost comedic because you're like, well, yeah, it would be the same time. Obviously, he's trying to say like all of the clocks stopped, not just your watch. All of them did. That means you're in a dream. But it's funny because the way it looks like he's. Did you know that this room has 4 walls, just like most rooms? Check it out. What? Can I mention the thing about the boy actors?
Yeah.
Okay. There's 2 young boy actors in this. One is Aaron Eckhart's son, who isn't in the movie much besides a few flashbacks and one dream sequence. The other is the boy that he is trying to get the demon out of. And they should have switched them, right? So the boy who is possessed is the kid from Gotham, who plays Bruce Wayne. The boy who plays his son is the kid from the movie Krampus. And he was really good in that movie. He was really good in Krampus. He was one of the better parts. Like, I think a lot of people came out of that and actually mentioned, I saw so many reviews mention that they thought he was actually a really good child actor. And I totally agree. We go to this movie, the character that really needs to give and convey emotion is the kid who played Bruce Wayne. That's his character. The character who gets nothing to do is the son of Aaron Eckhart, the good actor. Switch them around, right? Yeah. There is a scene where, and it's funny because they're both like the same age and they look extremely similar.
Yeah.
One of them is very, very clearly better than the other. Make the kid from Krampus the kid who's possessed because he gets more to do and he needs to work better than the kid that you're only going to see every now and then in like a dream sequence and a few flashbacks. It's so ridiculous. There is a scene where the kid from Gotham is like crying and looking at Aaron Eckhart and his face is like this. It is just like frozen and he's like, it feels real. And it's like, that's how you react. Like, you can't react any other way.
That might also be like, I don't think David Mazouz is a bad actor. In another horror movie that came out earlier this year, The Darkness, I thought it was all right. That was a really bad movie, but he was all right. And it might be direction, but also David Mazouz looks, and maybe this was also made 5 years ago, so he's probably improved as an actor since then. But he looks lost. Like, he's not given any direction, and he asked to like talk and look sinister, and he's gonna have like another voice coming out of his own. Like, and that's a hard thing to make scary. And as an idea, it's scary, but in practice, not everything can be Conjuring 2. Remember in Conjuring 2, where there's that scene where it's like one take, and it's just on this side of the frame, there's Patrick Wilson, and his face is up close to the camera, and it's in focus. But behind him, on this side of the frame, is the girl who's like sitting in Bill's chair, and she starts talking, and like her voice and Bill's voice starts coming out of her, and she's out of focus. And they do that really well, so they made it creepy. Just seeing a kid pouting and sounding and saying quoting Bane or quoting Darth Vader, it doesn't look anything more than ridiculous. It comes off very ridiculous. It does not succeed at all, and it evokes laughter as opposed to chills.
Yeah, I'll also say this. It's probably hard for him to act in some of the scenes where he's so young, and some of these scenes, I feel like if you don't have a director that is really building a vision in your head so that you understand the stakes of the scene, because that scene that I was talking about where he's supposed to be like crying and it doesn't work at all, that scene is like very clearly just like a black room that's so dark it looks like it's an eternity of blackness in every direction, but they're on like a sound stage and they're just in the middle of nothing. It's just a floor, blackness all around them, and they're talking because they're in a dream world, so these kind of rooms can exist where it's just like blackness everywhere. And he's talking to Aaron Eckhart. There's nothing around them, right? That scene could have been filmed like that could have been one of the first scenes filmed. We don't know. And that is when you see that and how just there's absolutely no context to what is going on around him because it's literally there's nothing there. Yeah. I can see how in that scene, I don't know, it makes sense that like a child actor maybe couldn't actually get themselves to really convey the emotions they needed to because they don't really know the stakes of the scene. They're not able to really like invest themselves in the story at that point.
Yeah. This movie also comes off as very cheap. The lack of locations was very noticeable for me.
Let's think. So there's the apartment. There's the place where his mentor works. I don't know what.
Yeah.
There's where he lives.
There's the office he works at for one scene.
Yeah. So
there's that, and I wouldn't be surprised if like some of these sets are just rearranged for other scenes. Like there's the part where he's exercising that one guy in a boardroom. I wouldn't be surprised if they just like recycled like a room in the apartment and made it look like a boardroom to save space.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is a lot of the sets, while there might be like more than like 7 sets or something, I feel like I'm looking at the same sets all the time. Maybe because they have a low budget, so they're trying to like rearrange sets around to make it look like a variety of sets. But like the color of the walls is like beige. It's like my color of walls, right?
Browns
like
and beige, browns and beiges, and browns and beige, browns and beiges, and dark browns and light browns and beige.
Yeah, it's a very it looks cheap is what I'm trying to get at. So there's that. Let's talk about those stupid sidekicks because they feel like they're out of a different movie entirely. They're the worst actors in the movie. So working with Aaron Eckhart is emo dude and emo chick. So they I don't know how to explain it. So they feel like they're out of a really cheap 2000s like straight to DVD horror movie or action movie or something where they're tech savvy, they click, but nothing about their performance feels natural at all. It comes across like a director's like this is the first take they're doing it, and the director's telling you what to do off screen. So there's a point where Aaron Eckart's like, "I gotta go do something," and then he wheels over, and then emo guy goes, "Where are you going?" And it's so over the top, like it feels like a director's like, "Shrug while you say this next line." So he's like, "Where are you going?" And then the girl behind him goes. And the way they stage it and the way that the frame is layered, it's so awkward. And it feels like it's been rehearsed, or maybe like this is happening for the first time. It does not feel natural. It doesn't feel like a real person is doing this. And there's no other way to describe it other than bad direction.
It could have been, for one, both of the sidekicks could have been one character, and that still would have only been half a character, I think. Not even half. I'm going to say 15% of a character at that point. And then you have crap. Oh, I want to talk about the boss scene, all right? So they call Aaron Eckhart boss. And I guess it's supposed to be kind of like an affectionate nickname, right? Like, oh, boss. Like, he is their boss, but they call him boss because that's just what they call him. And right, it's just, that's what they call him. Hey, boss. For starters, I don't really buy that they would ever, like, how does he become friends with these people, right? Like, I would like to see that. Like, he's lost his family and these people step in, and maybe these two, people that want to help fight against ghosts and whatever. Maybe I could see, like, that could be interesting, them coming together, seeing how they became a team, maybe. But we get to this one scene where Aaron Eckhart is, like, possessed, and he's freaking out, and he's sprawled all over the floor, and they're all like, no, he's freaking out. What do we do? He's possessed. And this is hilarious. So it cuts to Aaron Eckhart twitching on the ground, cuts to emo guy, boss! Cut back to Aaron Eckhart twitching on the ground, cut to emo girl, boss! Cut back to Aaron Eckhart. They might have yelled boss maybe one more time in that scene for all, because he jumps out the window after that. So maybe they yelled boss when he did that. I bet they did. I'd have to go back and see it. But how do you write that? And how do you edit that together, right? So one character has yelled boss in like a concerned kind of way.
Yeah.
We then cut to what he's seeing, which is Aaron Eckhart freaking out and possessed and twitching. And then they cut to the emo girl, and it's like, at least write a different line of like equal concern, like, yeah. What do we do? Or something like that, instead of just the same line the other character just said.
Yeah.
They're one character. They should be one. Yeah.
They should. The emo girl, there's a part where they have like the blood that can like make you awake or something, whatever that is.
It makes you woke. That blood woke you up.
She puts it in like the thing, and then she slams the button, and then she turns and she goes, "It has been injected." and like short, like all of their lines of dialogue are directed that way. There's a part where the Vatican lady comes, and then the guy goes, "Whoa, she's hot," and then the girl goes, "For real?" And it's so awkward the way it's edited together, and the way every line feels isolated from the next. It doesn't feel like conversation. It's so strange. And then the ending also sucks. We need to wrap up this movie, but the ending is so
God,
bad.
We've been talking about this movie for like 40 plus minutes. The ending is terrible. I don't think there's really much to say. I don't even know if they know what their ending is. Like, I can't really explain what happened. I don't know I don't even know if Aaron Eckhart's really going to live. I don't know if he's really alive.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I don't know. So yeah, that's Incarnate.
Also, can I point this out?
Yes.
Why is Carice Van Houten in the last dream as like a nurse beating the crap out of Aaron Eckhart?
Was that Carice Van Houten?
Yeah, it was her. Randomly, she's a nurse in the dream. And it's funny because prior to this dream, we get like him waking up. So he thinks he's defeated the demon, but he hasn't. And then we go into another dream that he thinks is reality for a moment, but then it turns out it's a dream. After he thinks he's defeated the demon, Carice Van Houten like comes up to him, and they have like this like, she's like just very emotional and like thankful that he has saved her son. And it's really weird, and like the fact that she and her son look so much like his wife and his son. And, like, the way that Aaron Eckhart kind of, like, looks at her in the end, I'm like, are they, like, trying to set them up as a thing? And then...
I don't know.
And then when he jumps out the window, she comes up to him, and she's, like, grabbing his hand, and she's all emotional. And I'm like, why did he see her, like, her in particular? Why was she in his dream beating him up? I think they really are trying to seed that, like, maybe he likes her and she likes him over the course of this one night. Or I don't even know how long this exorcism takes place. What the heck?
I don't know, man. This movie... was bad. All right, Rasco, you want to talk about your most anticipated movie of the year, Man Down?
It was not my
Tell us
most
about
anticipated movie of the year. No. Do you want to talk about this movie in spoilers, or do you want to talk about it? Should we go into spoilers on this, or should we just do spoiler free?
No one watched it. No one's like, I would.
Yeah,
be
let's
surprised if
go
everyone-
full spoilers on this one, but let's start off with our quick thoughts on it, non-spoiler.
Yeah, I can't talk about this movie without spoilers. So
Yeah, I think it's kind of yeah. So I saw the trailer for this movie, and the first time I saw the trailer for Man Down, I thought it looked horrible and cheap, and I thought that it was a movie that had maybe been like a straight to DVD release of like 2015, and it had already come out and I hadn't seen it. But no, it was coming out this year, and I was like, oh wow, I'm gonna go see this movie. And so, Man Down is about Shia LaBeouf's character, who is his last name is Drummer. That's all I know.
yeah.
And he is a soldier, and this movie has like 3 framing devices all working at the same time. That's weird. I just realized that. It's got like 3 different framing
really
devices.
Weird. Like, I thought it was 4 or 5 at first, but it's 3.
Yeah. And wow, that's really weird the more I think about it. But okay, I can't really explain anything more than that. It's about a soldier who has PTSD, I guess, and we're kind of learning about why and who he is, and I don't know how to talk about this movie.
So we have 3 parts of this movie. There's one where Gary Oldman is some kind of counselor in the military, and he's talking with Shia LaBeouf about what's wrong with him, because there must be something wrong. Something happened. There was an incident, and he was trying to get to the heart of that. And through that, we learn about some kind of history that and about his family life. So then we see that part of his life. We
Framing
see him,
device 1 and framing device 2.
Yes, but we got that part where he's talking to his wife, and where he's like with his wife and his kid before he goes to war. But in that, we have flashbacks to when he's in boot camp. So where these scenes with his wife take place, it's very fluid. Sometimes they take place before, in the middle of, and then after boot camp before he gets deployed. And so that gets a little muddled and confused. But then there's also this thing where his soldier buddy and his best friend since they were kids, played by Jai Courtney, where they're in like this weird post-apocalyptic America, and he's got this big shaggy beard, and he's trying to find his wife and son amongst all this carnage, and they can only find Clifton Collins Jr. It's like a wasteland, and they can only find this character played by Clifton Collins Jr. to maybe get to the bottom of where he's located.
Framing device 3.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's scattered all over the place.
It literally goes from like opening scene of the first framing device, cut to opening scene of the second, and then cut to opening scene of the third, and then back to the opening scene of the first framing device, and it's just like,
yeah,
what's going on? It's just slicing and dicing everywhere.
The first scene is towards the end of the third framing device, and then we get the title card, and then we get the credits, and then it goes to like framing device number 2, scene 1, and then framing device number 1, scene 1. It's edited very poorly. I think that structurally speaking, this isn't very sound. But I will say this: there are ideas that are potentially profound here. I think there is certainly some ambition behind the storytelling, and I think that when it's all said and done, the movie does not look as bad. Visually speaking, it doesn't look as bad as I thought it would. Like, I think that the director understands the limitations of his budget and provides a consistent-looking, albeit cheap-looking, experience. So I'll say that much.
That's fair. So, yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think that this movie, you'll watch it, and you see so many movies where the CGI is just up to a standard, right? And movies of today, they just look of a certain budget now, right? Like, you expect a movie to look a certain way when you go to see it in theaters. This movie doesn't look like it would have been like a wide release film. It looks like, was it?
Let me check the theater count.
This is something that, like, it really looks like something you might have found on, like, a straight-to-DVD movie, like, section, in the straight-to-DVD movie section or something like that. But that's not a problem with it. If you go into this movie and say, oh, this looks bad, well, that's not fair, because this movie clearly doesn't have the budget to fully realize everything that it's trying to, but it works within its budget well, and it doesn't try to reach too far and try to do things that are just laughable. At no point is the movie cheap enough looking to be laughable. And in fact, one of the things that makes this movie look cheap, I guess, is there's this weird... Is it a filter? What do you think's going on with this movie on just like like, you know what I'm talking about? It's got like a weird, like, staticky, not film grain, but like, it's really weird. It's almost like overexposed and like really imperfected image.
Yeah, it's. I would say it is a filter to try to mask some of the shortcomings. I think is what's going on. It feels. I'll give it this much. It does feel like the filter wasn't added in post.
And I'll say this. I actually kind of like it. Like, I wouldn't want to see this movie without that strange visual aesthetic to it, right? Like, I think that at least makes this like, oh, this doesn't feel like other movies. It almost feels very dreamlike from scene one because of the strange filter on it. And I actually kind of liked it. And I like that this movie, I really like that while it is obviously a low-budget movie, it very clearly is still trying to be as artistic as it can be within its budget limitations. It's really trying on all fronts at like 100%.
Yeah, and
does it succeed? I don't know. It's an interesting failure, like Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk.
I guess in that regard I would agree. I think though that's all directorial and visual stuff. I think that's probably the best part of this. I think the director does give good performances out of his actors. Jai Courtney I don't think is a bad actor. He's just boring. He doesn't have much of a screen presence, and he's not giving a bad performance. He's reading his lines and he's doing what he can. I just don't think he has a whole lot of charisma. I don't think he has a whole lot of charm. I just don't get a lot from Jai Courtney. I find him a little bit boring. I think when he's playing weird, eccentric, like supporting characters like Captain Boomerang in the worst superhero movie of the year,
I am not. Or what is it that he says in Suicide Squad?
I did not.
I did not.
He's at his best when he's doing these weird, eclectic, but he has a very strong man look to him. So everyone just kind of casts him as boring, generic soldier guy. And he's really boring and generic when he plays boring, generic soldier guy. So I don't think he's bad. And I don't think he gives a bad performance in this movie. I think Shia LaBeouf gives a solid performance here. I think Gary Oldman is solid in this movie. I think Kate Mara is solid in this movie. I think Clifton Collins Jr.'s character is obnoxious, but I think on a performance level, he did a solid job. I think the direction is probably the strongest stuff here in the way what he gets out of his actors, and I think on a visual level, they made the most of their shortcomings. On a story level, though, this movie's not good at all. It's really bad. In fact, so much of it hinges on that final act for where all this is going. And when you get there, it's admirable and it's well-intentioned, but in execution, it's honestly kind of tasteless. And that's not just me as somebody trying to say that about a movie. Like, I actually talked with someone who, one of my managers, she grew up in a military household. Like, all of the men in her family have been soldiers, and she's been around PTSD her whole life. She found the places this movie went in the end, it was clearly somebody who has not been to war and has something on their mind about the way veterans seem to commit suicide and the homeless rate of veterans. The director clearly has an interest in that, but on a story level and in the script, it's clear that somebody who has not experienced this is making a story about this, and it feels like somebody. It'd be like me writing a story about investment banking. I don't know anything about banking, but it might interest me. I just don't really. I haven't experienced it firsthand. So and that would and me writing like making a movie about that, or writing a book about that. There's a layer of authenticity missing from that, and I think that's what's missing here. And it jumps the gun in several areas, and it made me more uncomfortable than anything in the end, and not in a good way.
I was just going to agree with you earlier when you said that Shia LaBeouf does a pretty good job here. I think so too. I think this movie could have been potentially unwatchable had you not had an actor of the caliber that Shia LaBeouf is. And I know a lot of people think that's a controversial statement. A lot of people hate him, but I like him. So shut up and go away.
I like Shia LaBeouf as well. I cannot for the life of me find Man Down on Box Office Mojo, like at all. Um, the last thing that is listed on his Watch Mojo, not Watch, his Box Office Mojo thing is American Honey, which came out earlier this year, and then before that it's Fury from 2014. So that's interesting. That's strange that I can't find. There were people in the theater with me when I saw this movie, and it opened, and you saw it, I saw it, so people went to see this movie. I'm surprised that it isn't even listed under the box office Mojo files. I don't know how many theaters it opened up in.
Okay. Are we done talking about this non-spoiler?
Yeah, let's just go into spoilers.
All right, let's go into spoilers. Spoilers start now! Okay, let's talk about what don't make no sense about this movie. Let's get into it, Connor. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think the place that I gotta go is what ultimately happens, and the way we get propelled into the what happened during the incident scenario. What happened was basically he thought the room was clear. There was a woman and her child hiding underneath the floorboards, and they shot a bunch of people, and then he shot them, and then Jai Courtney got shot in the neck and died. And then he found out that Kate Mara, his wife, and his best friend had an affair while he was deployed, but Jai Courtney was not yet deployed. And the way the movie plays it, for a good while, and I should say the big climax, the big ending of this movie, it goes on for some time. I'd say about 20 to 30 minutes. It goes on for a while.
It's like you're watching a revelation happen for like the full third act. It's just a giant revelation of like, reveal! Ah, look at all the stuff we're revealing!
Yeah, it does come off
for like
that
30 minutes. You're just like,
yeah, and because the first like hour and 15 minutes or so, somewhere in there, it's like the first hour and a half maybe, it's all building to something, and there's a lot of clues, and you're not sure what exactly is going on, but that's the way they want you to see it. And this isn't a knock against the movie, I was able to predict everything that kind of happened, because the movie is not subtle at all, and I think a layer of subtlety would have added to the impact to what they're trying to do on a story level here. So like, but during that big final half an hour, like for the first half, it's almost like, so the big stuff at the end, like with like so the big stuff with like post-apocalyptic America, and he and Jai Courtney are running around. So Jai Courtney's dead. He's not actually there, and this is all like a big hallucination or some kind of this is all like an imaginary world created in Shia LaBeouf's head, because he's a homeless veteran now. He's homeless, and he's trying to kidnap his son, basically, and take him for himself. And he's kind of thinking of it as this big mission that he's on. And this whole situation, though, and the way it's set up, it's almost like the way he kind of runs away from home and his frustrations with life and everything. The way they started off at the top of the third act is, oh my God, my wife and my best friend had an affair, and this is sending me over the edge. And it seems to marginalize and sideline a lot of mental issues that come out of war, and when it comes to veterans. And so, and where they do eventually touch on that later in the movie, but the way they catalyst and like propel it and send it off. It's almost like it had nothing to do with the war. His friend and wife could have had an affair at any moment, and this would still be the way he responded. And that I don't like that because you're trying to make a movie about PTSD, and you're just making it about a man who's upset that his wife cheated on him, and that doesn't sit right with me. But then it's almost like they realize that that's a little wrong. That does marginalize a lot of issues that people have coming back from war. So they almost retcon that, and they're like, "Oh, well, you see, I shot a woman and a child, and I see that as my woman, as my wife and child. That I feel like I killed them. Oh no, and so my redemption is to rescue my child." And so you're starting to see now that a lot of these ends aren't starting to go together, and there's some holes in the way this movie is trying to tie itself up thematically. And I think putting the affair in there really throws a monkey wrench into the message of this movie.
Yeah, here's why. So I like the idea of we're seeing this post-apocalyptic America. It looks like a war zone, and none of it's real. And he's just a homeless vet. I actually like that idea because it's playing to this idea that like when veterans come home, coming back to their own country is almost like entering a whole new war zone because there's a whole list of new things that they have to fight. They have to fight to reintegrate themselves back into society, right? To become a normal American citizen again, right? Because they've been a warrior. They've been a soldier. They've been killing people. And now they have to come back and put their guns away and act like a normal civilized person. They're in regular society again. And I like the idea of he sees America inside his own mind as like it's almost a war zone, right? He's still at war even when he comes home. And I think the idea was, oh, we'll have his wife have an affair with his best friend, and that's like one of the battles he has to fight when he comes home. But no, you don't need to do that. Just demonstrate that it's really hard to integrate yourself back into normal society, right? That, I've killed a woman and a child. How do I go home and embrace my wife and kid and, and listen to them talk about how happy they are to see me again when I've, ruined this possibility for someone else to ever have this experience overseas, right? That's all you need.
Yeah, and I think killing off Jai Courtney is a mistake if you're going to try to make this a battle he has to fight.
Yeah.
Another issue I have, though, is the way he finds out about the affair is the most hack writer contrivance you could possibly create.
And we'll talk about the Skype inconsistency after that.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. So they name drop Skype twice in the movie, like 2 or 3 times. And anyways, when they actually use Skype, it's not actually Skype. It's called like voice call.
It's called like video chat. It's like the most generic bootleg Skype thing ever. But you've already said the name Skype like multiple times, so like
that's strange. I'd like to know how the licensing on that is concerned. Like, I bought the rights to say Skype but not use Skype. That's weird. Is what I'm trying to say. But what happens is when Jai Courtney gets shot, his helmet falls off, and so while he's dying, Jai Courtney's like, "I'm sorry," and then he looks down at his helmet and just conveniently taped on a note card on the inside of his helmet, it says his Skype name, his password, and then the Skype name for his wife. Like, it says Jai Courtney's Skype information and his wife's. Like, gee, because that's not something you just remember. Like, I don't need to write down my Skype name. I don't need to write down my Skype password. I just know it. And someone else's, if I've added them as a contact, I don't need to look up their Skype info. So, what? That's just there for Shia LaBeouf to go, what? And even so, like, it was the most obvious revelation that could have happened, because earlier in the movie, he's calling, like, hey, how are my wife and kids doing? How's my wife and kid doing? And then Jai Courtney's like, they're really good. They're fine. And it's like the way it's shot, it's almost like the camera's supposed to pivot and reveal Kate Mara lying in bed. Like, the way it's shot is like the most, oh, he's having an affair. Oh no. That's the way they play it. And to go with that obvious revelation, how about he doesn't die? How about they have to live with this thing looming over them? I don't like the way they went about it.
I totally agree.
And
Also, what is Jai Courtney's character's plan? Because when you look at their Skype chat, he's been like, "Come on, we can stay together. Keep the faith, baby." And he's like, it's like, is he trying to like actually make this relationship work?
Yeah.
Does he really feel sorry about it? Is he sorry because he's caught and he's about to die, and so he's just like, better apologize now. Least you could do. The least you could do.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I have a lot of issues with the way this movie wraps up, and plus, this movie just is not subtle at all. Would it kill this movie to have been any subtle at all? Like, there's a part where it's revealed, oh, Jai Courtney's dead, and so then it shows like Shia LaBeouf and Jai Courtney walking through post-apocalyptic America, and then Jai Courtney starts to disappear next to him. Like, oh, he's not actually there. And then we see scenes in the post-apocalyptic America that we'd seen in the past, but Jai Courtney's been replaced with Shia LaBeouf. So it's like, oh, it was really Shia LaBeouf doing these sorts of things.
And you don't even need those, right? Like,
you don't. You absolutely
if you're trying to do the, like, stylized, artsy war film, and you're coming up with all these crazy framing devices to tell the story in a visually interesting way, right? Why be so explicit with that?
I don't know.
We got
it. And then to make it even, like, another, like, this movie is like a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire slamming you over the head with your eyes popping out of how, like that's it, trying to hit you over the head with its message. Like, do you get it? Do you get it? And like there's a part where they're walking next to a building, and then written in comically large, spray painted, is America. We have a problem. No, come on, movie. Don't tell us how to feel. Show us stuff so that we can know so that we as the viewer can put together like what we think of the movie, as opposed to just telling us what we're supposed to feel. It's emotionally manipulative. And when we get to the end, and then there's stuff like where the movie gets its title, Man Down, which is so earlier in the movie, he's with his son, and kids are beating him up at school. He's like, well, why are they beating him up at school? Oh, because mom said, I love you, in front of them when she dropped me off one day at school, so now they make fun of me, and they beat me up because of that. He's like, well, we just need to come up with a code word. How about man down? Because conveniently earlier in the scene, my son was asking me what man down meant. Well, man down means this, this, and this, and this. Okay, how about when I say man down, that's our code for I love you? And so then at the end, then there's like, but don't worry, if all of this seems pretty cerebral and like you might not get it, don't worry, the movie shows you all the clips from earlier in the movie to inform this scene, just so you know that they had pre-planned this and that they knew what was going on. So at the end, when he reads the letter that says man down, it cuts to the part where they're like, just so we know, man down is code for I love you, and then it cuts back so that the kid can go, Daddy! Like, God, be subtle, movie.
Man down!
Man down!
Man down! Okay.
Hey, Rasco.
Yeah?
Man down.
Man down. Hey, everybody watching, man down.
Man down. Do you have anything else to say about the way this movie wraps up?
Not really.
No?
No.
This movie bludgeons you over the head with all of its, like, it shows you all the stuff that it had seeded during Revelations, which makes seeding them kind of pointless. So I don't really have much more to say about this. I think that there's like the one big action scene. It's well directed. It was actually pretty exciting. I liked the war scene.
Sound design was really good in that scene.
Yeah, it really was. Also, one more thing. This movie like tries to make everything explicit. There is one thing that is subtly handled. In Jai Courtney's Skype messages, he says, keep the faith, and then he asks Kate Mara to take off her shirt, and then tattooed like by her shoulders, keep the faith. And they don't have like a camera that's like a close-up of her tattoo. It's just kind of there, and it's something for you to notice. If more of the movie was like that, I would have liked that more. So So yeah, I'm going to give Man Down a 3 out of 10. I think it does not hold any water. There's some ambition here. It's well intentioned, and the direction is decent, and there's some solid performances here. But on a story level, it doesn't hold up, and it crumbles under its own weight.
Yes. Okay, what's next on our agenda for tonight? Actually,
Oh, do you
score.
do not have a score? Yeah, do you not have a score for it?
What did I give Billy Lynn? Did I give Billy Lynn a 5 out of 10?
Something like that.
I think this is. I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10. That's cool. I get that. And then I'm going to quickly talk about the movie Loving. Rasco didn't see it. I'm just going to quickly run through that. Loving is the newest offering from writer-director Jeff Nichols. Jeff Nichols, this is his second movie he's put out this year. Earlier this year, he gave us Midnight Special, starring Joel Edgerton and Michael Shannon, mostly Michael Shannon. And I think Kirsten Dunst was also in that movie. This tells the real-life story from the late 50s and throughout the 60s of I think Richard and Mildred Loving, who were an interracial couple in, I think they say Virginia, and they can't be married even though they get married in Washington D.C. because of some interracial marriage laws. And this is first and foremost just the story of them and them growing a family and falling in love and trying to get married and having life together. And then on a secondary level, it's about the court case that actually changed the Constitution and allowed for interracial marriage to be allowed. But that's more on the back burner, and but it's more about the love story between Richard and Mildred Loving. And it's fine. I know this is a movie that is getting touted up with a bunch of award consideration. I don't really know how to really talk about this. I watched it last night, and it did not make an impact on me whatsoever. But there's quite a bit of good stuff about this movie. I think Joel Edgerton is one of my favorite actors working today. He wrote and directed a movie called The Gift last year, which he also was a supporting part in. And I think more than anything, I want to watch the next Joel Edgerton film. He's a fantastic actor, and him as Gordo in that movie is a performance I'm surprised worked on any level. And it worked in spades. It was fantastic. Here, though, he continues to impress, where he plays a very shy and emotionally reserved person who does have a heart and does love his wife. And I think more than anything, Joel Edgerton is the reason to watch this movie. Ruth Negga, who plays his wife, you might know her as Raina from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think she's good here too. I think it's a smart choice to cast actors who have had work before but aren't like A or even B-list actors, but they're dependable actors that are around, and casting them in a period piece and in the leads because it's less distracting. It does add more to the illusion of the period piece. And I think honestly, they have that older. They just have an older way about them and the way they act and the way they appear. Because Ruth Negga, she looks like she could have walked out of the '60s, just like the way she looks. You know how people just don't look the way they used to. Like if you look at old pictures of somebody, like that's just the way genetics and biology works. And Ruth Negga does look more akin to somebody who probably lived in the '60s than say Beyonce, so to speak. So, and then Joel Edgerton, he's not the world's most attractive man, but he does have an older, strong and silent type about him, and I like the way and I think more than anything, it gets their relationship right, and there are scenes between them that are so sweet. They just brought a smile to my face. The thing, though, is I see a lot of people being bored by this movie. Me and my brother were the only people in the theater when we went to go see this movie, and when we walked out, my brother said he was bored by this movie, and I can understand why. This is a very restrained movie. It's very held back. It doesn't have it's very quiet, too. Doctor Strange was playing in the theater next to us, and there were times where we could hear the music like crystal clear from Doctor Strange next door. It's a very quiet, very laid-back movie, and I think it might be too restrained for a lot of viewers. A lot of people are going to probably be bored, fall asleep, say it's lame. And I don't think it's lame. I think Jeff Nichols, as a director, this is just his style. And while it's definitely not my style, it is a style that I think some people out there would probably really, really like. Because with this and Midnight Special, they're the only Jeff Nichols films I've seen, and I do like Midnight Special more than this. But he has a very laid back, restrained style where he does like to pretty much take his camera and just observe people and have you draw the conclusions about what you're watching. And I do like that. It's kind of the opposite of Man Down. So the problems I really have, and I think more people are going to have, there are times where I don't feel like a story is really being told. We have a scene, we observe it, and then it's over. And then we get another scene, we observe it, and it's over. And while the relationship certainly builds over time, I don't know if there's a whole lot of a story being told here. And and I know this is really the big pickle and the big conundrum with real life, like movies based off on true events, where, and I don't know if this is I don't think Jeff Nichols is doing this, but it's an argument that people have with this, where I don't feel like there's much of a story being told here, and then people say, well, it's based on real life, there wasn't, like, they're trying to be historically accurate. Well, okay, to a degree, this is fictionalized, though. That isn't the real Richard Loving. That isn't the real Mildred Loving. This isn't actually the 1950s and 1960s. This is a production of that. And to add some kind of historical inaccuracies, it's not hurting anybody's feelings to do that. I'm not saying I wanted this to be a courtroom drama, but when I finally figured out that this was a microcosm and trying to get to the heart of who these people are amongst this, what turned out to be a pretty big event, and kind of treating them as, like, this whole event rather mundane, the way that these people lived rather mundane lives, I was like, okay, this is kind of neat. I don't know if I'd ever watch it again, though, and that's the big issue. I think, though, Jeff Nichols' strength as a director is he's very naturalistic, and more than anything, he captures a sense of place so well. In Midnight Special, he captured being on the road so accurately. If you've ever been on, like, multiple road trips in your life, you know what it's like to just be in a car for long periods of time and being on the road. And I think in Midnight Special, he really captured that. And in this, I've never been to the 1950s, I've never been to the 1960s, I've never been to the South period. But I felt like I've been there before. It's so authentic in the way he captures it. Fields and architecture, and when they go to the city versus the country, there's a difference there, but they definitely feel like they're in the same time period. He's a strong director. I just wish that, I should probably say, I've never seen Mud, and I've never seen Take Shelter, which I think are the only other two movies he's made. I want to go and watch those, but I don't think Jeff Nichols is really my kind of filmmaker. This is a decent movie. I don't know if I'd recommend this. Know what you are getting into. If you really like Jeff Nichols, if you really like quiet, restrained, reserved movies that are sweet and are somewhat sentimental and emotional, then maybe check this one out. Take your grandma to see it, maybe. It ain't Brooklyn. If you're looking for like a really heartwarming romance story, this is not Brooklyn from last year. But I do think, as far as reserved acting goes, Joel Edgerton is a showcase for it. And I think if we're going to go with reserved acting, I think Joel Edgerton in Loving heads and what's it, head over heels better than Casey Affleck in Manchester by the Sea. If not because I think, Joel Edgerton just has more to do. We'll get into Manchester next week, but I do think that Loving is maybe a marginally, on terms of like filmmaking level, this is a little bit better than Manchester, but I like this movie more than I liked Manchester, and we'll get into that next week. I don't know what I'd give Loving. I don't think I'll even give it a score. It's fine. If you want to watch it, if you like these kind of Oscar movies, check it out. But know that you might be bored, and if you don't like these kinds of movies, then do not watch it, because you will not like it. So that's all I have to say about Loving. All right, Rasco, do you have a movie to recommend based off the movies we talked about?
All right, so Man Down, it's a war movie. So I thought that I'd randomly throw out another war movie. That war movie being We Were Soldiers, which is Mel Gibson's in it. I don't think it's directed by Mel Gibson. I don't know who directed it. I'm sorry, but it's called We Were Soldiers, and it is a Vietnam War movie with Mel Gibson in it. And that's all I gotta say. I think it's a pretty good movie, and it's about war. Check it out. I don't want to say too much about it. I just think it's definitely worth a watch.
Yes, it was directed by Randall Wallace. I don't know who that is. He also wrote Braveheart. The guy who wrote Braveheart directed We Were Soldiers.
Oh, that's cool.
All right. My recommendation is also a war movie. We are talking about movies that are about the Man Down was a movie trying to be about the psychology of the soldier, and we also talked about Loving, which is a period piece that takes place in the 50s and 60s. And then Will was the first movie we talked about, Incarnate. Yeah, this has nothing to do with. I have nothing to recommend in that, but I'm going to nominate Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. This is a movie about the psychology of the soldier. And if you haven't seen this, definitely check it out. It's a fantastic movie. The middle segment is probably my least favorite. Basically, it's just a movie that almost plays like three mini movies. The first 45 minutes or so is boot camp, and everyone loves that. It's really, really great. Arlie Ermy as the drill sergeant is fantastic. Um, Matthew Modine is in this movie. And that's what I like to say is he plays a character named Joker in this movie, and Matthew Modine is also in Dark Knight Rises. So, guys, the Joker's in Dark Knight Rises. I don't know why everyone was upset that Joker wasn't in Dark Knight Rises. Joker is in Dark Knight Rises. This, and we get a middle segment where they go to Vietnam, and it's kind of like culture shock because everything they were taught really has no place in Vietnam because it's such a different war than the other wars. And then the third segment is almost like a one-act play. It's like all on one set, and people are getting picked off one by one. And honestly, that final half an hour, I might like even more than the first 45 minutes. Like, I love the way this movie ends, and what it has to say about conditioning of soldiers is really, really interesting. And Vincent D'Onofrio's Private Pile is one of the great performances that Vincent D'Onofrio has given us. One of our best actors right now. I think Vincent D'Onofrio is unpredictable and an absolute joy to watch in just about everything he's in. So that's my recommendation. Full Metal Jacket. Check it out. And Rasco's is, what was it again?
We Were Soldiers.
Check them out if you have not. All right, Rasco, let's trailer trash. Let's talk about some trailers. All right, Rasco, the first trailer on our plate today is going to be the first full trailer for Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. What did you think of this trailer, Rasco?
I thought this trailer was awesome.
I agree, it's so good.
I really like this trailer quite a bit. I like, from what we've seen, it almost feels like this movie is taking, because Guardians of the Galaxy, in a way, feels like it's channeling parody type energy. It's not a parody of anything in particular, but it's channeling this kind of, we're aware of what we are. You don't have to take this any more seriously than these characters are. And it's not parody, but it's channeling that. I got a very distinct vibe from this trailer that they're going even farther down that avenue. Not to parody, but even more into this kind of little like niche comedy thing. And I actually really like that.
Yeah, I really like this trailer, actually. I think, first and foremost, the song choice for Fox on the Run by Sweet, great choice. Because the thing about, I remember after the first Guardians movie, and they had pretty much immediately announced we're making a sequel, everyone was theorizing, oh, okay, what's going to be on the new mixtape? And they could have gone with the easy route and just kind of picked hits, and everyone was mostly
Suicide
thinking
Squad.
Yeah. I think they're
Who
going to have
said that?
sympathy for the... I don't know. But I was theorizing they might have Sympathy for the Devil on the Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It would be the bad guy theme song. So they went with a song that people know, but nobody, like, it's not a song that you hear all the time on the radio.
It's a song that you know as soon as you hear it, but you could never just on your own sing it. Like it's not a song that you constantly throw out as like, oh, I love this song. But once you hear it, you're like, oh, I know this song. I know this song. I've heard it a million times.
That is a great way to put it. Absolutely. And I think the way they incorporated it into the trailer was a lot of fun. It made me laugh. I think visually speaking, this movie looks gorgeous. The way the colors pop. I think that I wish that we could have a line from Gamora in one of these trailers, because she's had 0 lines in all of these trailers. So, and it seems like this movie is going to really revolve around Star-Lord's relationship with Gamora, and then not having anything from Gamora. I think I'd like to see that in the advertising a little bit. Drax is really, really funny, and I know some people are really worried about Baby Groot, but I really liked it. I don't know what else to say.
I'll say, here's the thing that made it work for me in this trailer. Like, nothing about it did not work for me, but I'm not the person that Baby Groot is there to appeal to. I'm not there. I can't wait to see Baby Groot. I'm not like that. That's not me. But I love when you see angry Baby Groot and he's like, ah! I like that. I am there to see, like, homicidal murderer Chucky from Child's Play Baby Groot. That is there for me.
Because that's the way Groot was in the straight up murdered that whole hallway of people at one point. And I like that Baby Groot. It's still just Groot, but he's tiny. I like that a lot. I want to know if the sound of Baby Groot, if the voice of Baby Groot, if they got Vin Diesel on helium, that'd be amazing.
It would be. By the way, this was the first movie to be filmed on. I'm trying to find. Oh, it was the first movie to be filmed on an 8K. It was like it's the Red Weapon 8K. That's what this movie was filmed on. I think it was the first movie to be filmed on the what did I just say? The Red Weapon 8K. So
that's really cool. And then the Avengers Infinity War and its sequel, those are going to be the first film shot entirely on IMAX cameras, which Marvel finally getting into the innovation, like really pushing the boundaries visually speaking of what we can do. That's exciting.
That's cool. That's really cool.
This is really exciting. I don't know what else to say about this trailer. I really liked it. I think that the stuff with Rocket and the bomb and the rapport between these characters, it feels like a natural sequel. And I think James Gunn is the perfect choice to go for a sequel. It's like they're not capitalizing on the success of Guardians of the Galaxy, but getting James Gunn to come in and write and direct his sequel, I think is a very smart choice for this property. Because I think if you put it in the hands of another person, they'd be too wrapped up in what Guardians became once it came out and the popularity. They get wrapped up by that, and then that would...
You'd get Suicide Squad.
Yeah, you might get something more akin to a Suicide Squad. And so I think because, look at James Gunn, he comes from trauma, all right? He comes from the used toilet paper of the movie industry. That is trauma. And so he made B-movie exploitation flicks. That are complete trash. And they know they're trash. Trauma prides itself on being trash. And while no one, people get a kick out of Trauma because probably more ironically than anything, there is almost a respect in the industry for Trauma, for it kind of occupies a necessary corner of the film industry. And the likes of Trauma and the crazy grindhouse pictures they've put out have influenced the likes of Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino and Edgar Wright. They inspired those filmmakers, and to have James Gunn making such a commercial property out of where he came from, it's a special thing. You know what I mean? It's special for James Gunn to be doing these movies.
Yeah. I love James Gunn. I don't know if I've ever talked about that, but I was a huge James Gunn fan even before Guardians came out. And it is because James Gunn, even after that phase of his life, continued to make movies that are schlock in the best way possible. If you've not seen the movie Slither, go out and see the movie Slither. It is stupid. It is hilarious. But it's awesome, and it's got great characters. So,
and that's ultimately where James Gunn is so good, successful at. He's good at writing characters,
and he's good at injecting his character into everything that he makes too.
That's a great way of putting it. I'm really excited to see where Yondu gets to go in the sequel. I'm
Oh
really
my god,
excited.
yes. That's great.
Michael Rooker as Yondu. Oh my god.
That's that's beyond awesome.
I know.
um
I really like him in the first movie, and then by all the marketing, I have every reason to believe he's going to have a more important role in the sequel. And his big fin, yes, yes, that's really exciting.
Earlier when I was talking about how I felt like this was continuing down that path of like the really niche, like I feel like this movie's going to get even more James Gunny. I would like that. And an example is the last like stinger scene, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen a million times in the movie where it's, oh my god, this guy and this girl, these characters, they're developing a romance, they're getting that. But that's the point. James Gunn's taking that and he's like, Chris Pratt and Gamora, or I should say Star-Lord and Gamora, right?
Yeah.
They're the attractive people. He is attracted to her. She probably is kind of attracted to him, but would never really want to let it on. The point is that it is petty and stupid and ridiculous. But it's so funny that we focus on it in such a humiliating way in a movie that the stakes are going to be so big. This stupid little thing with Chris Pratt and Gamora, I think it's actually funny because it's treated like a middle school. He likes her. It's treated like middle school. And I really like, because Star-Lord is kind of just a kid. Like, he's like just a big kid in outer space. And he's never really grown up. And so to see them in that room, everything that happened in that scene, if you would replace them with child actors, it would have worked just as well. You could have had Mantis touching him. You like her. You have sexual feelings for her. No. And then Drax, replace all of them with kids. And it works just as well. And I think that's the point, is that it's like they're children.
I like that a lot, and I think, but it's also, it's knowing of what it is, and I like that, and that's what makes it funny, and making Drax be the one who reacts so, and Dave Bautista in that thick of makeup just going, it's so funny. You know what I feel like this is? It's like, it's almost like the Empire Strikes Back thing, where, I'm Lord sees himself as the Han Solo, and then Gamora is more of the Princess Leia, leave me alone type, and then it's almost like, but the big monkey wrench they throw in is, what if C-3PO was Drax, right? Like, what if C-3PO was like, oh, Mr. Han Solo, you like her, you are such a loser, like, that would be funny. And then, so I'm really liking the dynamic. I think the colors look absolutely great. I like the way they do the Marvel Studios logo and how it just comes out of you.
Oh, it's so good. That was awesome.
Because if you remember back when the Doctor Strange trailer came out, like when it said Marvel Studios, like it turned to black, and I was like, ooh, that's kind of cool. And then with this one, they're like throwing the logo out at you in like the cool neon colors. And I should probably say, tomorrow the full trailer for Spider-Man: Homecoming comes out. This is kind of us when we're recording. We got that tease, that 15-second tease, and that looks great. But we're gonna talk about it next week. We're gonna talk about that full trailer next week. So, do you have anything more to say about the Guardians trailer? I think it's cool.
Nope, it looks awesome. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Our second trailer we're talking about is the now full trailer for the now kickoff for the Universal Cinematic Universe monster movies, The Mummy, starring, Tom Cruise and Russell Crowe. So, Rasco, what did you think of this trailer?
I'm really mixed on this trailer. On one hand, I thought some of it was pretty. I don't know exactly. I don't know if
exciting.
There was some exciting stuff going on in the trailer that was cool, and I'm sure the full scene will be awesome. I actually liked the opening shot where you see the plane flying. Something about that shot was kind of interesting and unique. I don't know what it was. So based on that, it's too early to say that like it might actually be stylistically cool, or aesthetically interesting. We haven't seen enough for me to say that though, so I can't say that based on like those two shots. We get it's really hard for me to talk about this trailer because, like I said, it's kind of like I'm not really excited for this movie, but this trailer didn't make me go like, ugh. But at the same time, I'm really not that excited after watching this trailer either.
Yeah. My thoughts are this. The more and more I'm thinking about this, the more and more I'm not excited for this movie, just on a conceit level. Like you talked about last week, I'm not excited about this taking place in the modern day. I don't like a Universal Monsters cinematic universe, and it's going to be more of an action movie. I don't like that. I don't like having a lot of stars in the role. I don't like that. But that doesn't mean this movie won't be good. It doesn't. Like if it's a good action movie, then it's a good action movie. And this trailer, I think, is a well put together trailer. I like how at the beginning we have them sitting in the plane, and it cuts back to them finding the mummy and then bringing it onto the plane. But it constantly is just showing them sitting there, wondering what's going on because the plane is shaking, and then they'll cut back to like the mummy's tomb, and then it cuts to them sitting, and then it cuts to them pulling the tomb out of the thing, then it cuts to them, and then the camera pans on over to the mummy's sarcophagus, and I thought that was a cool shot the way it panned around and you see it there, and then we had the Sully moment. Birds, where they come on crashing through.
The sequel to the Clint Eastwood classic Sully. Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, Aaron Eckhart, Summy.
Russell Crowe. Summy. That's great. I love that. That's great. So, also, with that being said, the whole set piece with the plane going down, that looks like a well put together set piece. That looks really good. I do think, though, that some of the CGI here doesn't look that polished. Of course, the movie comes out when it comes out. It's not coming out next week. Coming out next year, as a matter of fact. There's plenty of time to touch up special effects. And I like how we don't see a whole lot. This movie doesn't show its hand, and I think that away from a cloud. So I think that this movie might not be good, but this trailer was a well edited, well put together trailer. I mean, yeah, it's a generic action movie trailer, but with it being the Mummy, there's a bit there I think that you can have a lot of fun with. I also don't like that it's taking place in the city. That's another thing I don't like.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna go there, I think this trailer could have shown worse. So that's what I'll say.
Agreed. Overall, it's not what I would have done with the cinematic universe of monsters, but who am I?
Have I pitched to you my idea for a mummy?
I don't think so.
Okay. Because nobody's scared of mummies anymore, right? Like, nobody says, oh my gosh, mummies. They slowly come at you, and they're kind of zombies in that way. What I would do is, okay, how do we make mummies scary again? And I'd make it more of like people might call it more of like one of those Gorno splatter flicks like Hostel or Saw, but what is scary is what if you were turned into a mummy and you were conscious for the whole mummification process, and like somebody was controlling your every actions, and you're only like seeing your body like what if you're like conscious and like somebody's doing some crazy magic, like ancient crazy Egyptian like experiment or like mummification process. They're pulling your brain out through your nose, and you're like conscious for all of it, and you're freaking out. Like, that'd be a cool like a short film I could make. There's like The Mummy, where you get turned into a mummy and you go through the whole mummification process, and then somebody's like commanding you to go and do these things, and you're helpless. You can't stop yourself from doing it. That's what I would do with a mummy movie. And this is not that. Yeah, they have to put butts in seats. They have to make it an action movie. But yeah, that's all I guess we have about The Mummy. So, Rasco, what did you think of the last trailer of the evening, Transformers: The Last Night? What did you think of it?
I'm ready for this to be the last night that I have to watch a Transformers trailer or talk about it.
But Rasco, we have a Bumblebee spin-off movie written by the screenwriter of Shut-In to look forward to.
There's not words for that. The fact that we're getting a Bumblebee spinoff ruins the "sorry, forgive me" stab Bumblebee scene that we see in the trailer. The fact that we're getting a spinoff kind of sweeps that suspension off the table. But also, why would they even show us that in the trailer? I don't know. Overall, like when I look at this trailer, the only thing that I can say I genuinely thought was cool or interesting was just some of the historical throw Transformers in World War II, throw Transformers in medieval times, that kind of stuff. That's about it. That's all I can say was cool. Nothing else about this really has me excited.
I'm with you.
And I wouldn't be excited even if it did look good, to be honest. I wouldn't be excited for it.
Because, I mean, at this point, a trailer's almost a moot point, right? We know what to expect with a Michael Bay directed Transformers movie. I haven't liked any of the Transformers movies I've seen. I've seen the first one, second one, and fourth one. I didn't like any of them. He's clearly only doing. He said this is the third time in a row that he said this is his last Transformers movie. I don't care. And this one is like supposed to kick off some sort of like shared universe thing with like a Bumblebee spin-off movie and like a Dinobots movie or whatever.
Oh yeah,
I don't care.
Does anyone care? I mean, Transformers hasn't had... The biggest problem with Transformers is that none of the Transformers are characters.
Right.
So spin-offs does not work with this. A spin-off movie is there to explore a character that you would like to see get their own film. When you don't have characters, it doesn't warrant a spin-off. Yeah, and
the go-to argument is, well, okay, now we have a chance to explore their characters. You know what, though? Honestly, in this, I just don't trust this franchise to do that. I just don't trust it. It's possible. It's absolutely possible that you could rectify the complaints we have about character. It's possible. I don't think it's likely, though. I think I agree with you, Rasco. The only thing I liked from this trailer is seeing the Transformers in medieval times and throughout history, but what else am I supposed to get from this? Like, Optimus Prime was a psycho killer in the last movie. So he might kill Bumblebee. Okay, I don't care. Like, Optimus Prime has had no character throughout any of these movies. So why should there be stakes between like Optimus and Bumblebee? I don't get why there should be stakes for movies. We have a planet-sized Transformer. Okay, so what?
It might be Unicron. If it is Unicron, I'm disappointed. Unicron should be orange. What's going on there?
Also, it's like what has been the threat in the first movie? World destruction. Second movie, world destruction. Third movie, never saw it. Fourth movie, world destruction. Fifth movie, world destruction. It's just the same, and it's just going to be more visual and audible noise and noise and noise. Honestly, though, the only thing I'm looking forward to regarding this movie is how many times they'll say Cade Yeager.
Cade Yeager.
That name is
Autobots, roll out.
I don't like this trailer. Another big issue I have with this, the aspect ratio is not consistent at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, watch the trailer again. So it's like there will be normal bars at the top and bottom, right? Normal bars. And then there will be like skinny bars at the top and bottom. Okay, are those IMAX scenes? I think maybe part of this was shot in IMAX, right? Maybe. But then there's like a normal sized bar up here and then a tiny sized bar over here. And everywhere I look, constantly throughout the trailer, like the aspect ratio keeps changing. And even so, like Dark Knight Rises was a movie that had a lot of IMAX scenes, right? But when at least they cut the trailer, they weren't lazy about it, and the whole thing was in a consistent aspect ratio.
Yeah.
Why aren't you having a consistent aspect? Like, this is only something you and I will complain about, but the aspect ratio is so inconsistent. And like,
that's hilarious. Oh my god.
So other things. My biggest response to this movie was, oh my god, Emily Blunt's in this movie? I had no idea she was in this movie. That's my biggest. And I think the new font is pretty good.
I like the font. The font's all right.
Yeah, the logo looks cool, except when the sword fades in, it looks really, really cheap. It doesn't look like like instead of like the sword just kind of coming from the darkness and like coming or the sword sliding down, it's like it fades in with the title and it looks really cheap. It's like the Man Down trailer where there's like the soldier like coming at you. It looks really cheap is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. It looks like a Transformers movie.
Yeah. All right, Rasco. That's all we have. Well, viewers, that's all we got for the rest of the show. Thank you guys very much for watching. Next week, we will be talking about the new Spider-Man Homecoming trailer, which is something to look forward to. Very exciting. Web Pits. But the movies that we will be talking about next week, we will be finally getting around to Manchester by the Sea. I've already seen the movie. Rasco's watching it because his theater
Tomorrow.
gets tomorrow, which will be this weekend. But then the new release movies we will be talking about next week are Manchester by the Sea, Office Christmas Party, Nocturnal Animals, and Miss Sloane. Those are the 4 movies we will be talking about next week on Real Talk Weekly.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I'm Connor Nielsen.
And I'm Rasco.